it's me, Alexa, and today we're going to be talking about the new Tamil film, PUTHAM PUDHU KAALai. So this is actually an anthology film that comprises of 5 different short films, all from different directors, featuring different actors, and totally different stories. The only thing that kind of ties them all together is the fact that they were all filmed and are all set during quarantine. So it kind of gives you a look at 5 different little mini realities of lives during quarantine. Overall, I thought that it was really great. I enjoyed watching the whole thing, but I do have favorites and not favorites. So the order I'm going to be talking about these short films, instead of just doing it the order that they showed up in the movie, I'm actually going to do it from least favorite to favorite. So we'll start off probably a little bit more negative and then get more and more positive as we go. But before I start that though, I did like all of them. There are none of these that I disliked. I just think that some were better than others, as was the case with most films. Before we get too far in though, this is a mostly spoiler-free review. If you're the kind of person who doesn't like to know anything about the story or anything that's even a slight surprise, then I'd probably recommend just stopping this video, going and watching it first. But if you don't care about knowing the base underlying story, then you're good to go. Keep on watching. Really quick before we jump in though, I want to give a quick thank you to our sponsor, The Coldest Water. Thank you to them for sponsoring this video. Use our link in the description to go to their website and use the code BLACKOUT to get 20% off your entire order until November 30th. So that code is almost running out, so make sure to go and do it now if you want to buy one, because that's 20% off and that's a really good deal. Just need to type the word blackout in at checkout. And make sure to use our referral link to help support the channel. To try and keep this review not too long for you guys, I'm just going to talk briefly about each of the short films and go into why they are each of their placements kind of in my list of least favorite to favorite. Okay, so to start off with, it'll be my least favorite of them all, which again, it's still very good, but just my least favorite is Coffee Anyone. So this short film was written and directed by Suhasini Maniratnam, and it was written by them as well as Mani Ratnam. So Suhasini also stars in the movie, playing the role of Vali alongside Shruti Hassan, who I recognized from Vraiskuram and Srimantaru. She's very talented in those, and she did a great job in this as well. And also there is Anu Hassan, Katari Ramamurthy, and Kamalam Charuth Hassan. So this short film was the 3rd one that played in the anthology, and it's about a nice little family. Their mother is very ill. All the daughters are adults, fully grown. They come back to visit, all but Shruti's character Ramya, who has a bit of an issues with her parents. But the 2 other sisters come to visit, and the mother's in very critical condition, and they kind of have a disagreement with the father of how to best deal with her ailments. And the reason this one's at the bottom of the list is I think that the dialogue in this one was the least natural feeling. All of these did a really good job of feeling very real and raw and just these perfect little stories. But this one, I felt there was just a couple times in it where the dialogue felt very forced. It felt like a script. It didn't feel like people having a conversation. And so that was my biggest issue with it. Also, the message of this one is probably the most, controversial, I'd say. Trying to think of how to word it without spoiling it. But because it definitely raises a lot of questions about how to deal with medical, a loved one who's extremely ill. And it offers a solution that could be good depending on the situation, but majority of the time won't really work out for you based on statistics and science. So that's really all I can say without spoiling it. But I did feel that could be a bit of a not so positive message. While it was a really sweet short film and the way that they did it, worked out and it was very nice and happy, I think the message that could convey to people could be the wrong message. That was what kind of nicked it to being the very bottom. Besides that though, the family dynamic was really sweet and the cinematography was quite good. I feel like everyone did a really good job acting. There were just a couple of those dialogues that felt a little bit unnatural. But besides that, it was still a really good short film. It was just the worst of these really great 5 short films. So in 4th place, we actually have the 4th film that plays in the movie, that is called Reunion. This one was directed by Rajiv Menon, who also helped write it alongside Aditya K.R. and Krishnaswamy Ramkumar. So this film starred Andrea Jeremiah, Leela Sampson, and Gurucharan C. And all of them I thought did a spectacular job at their roles, the way that they played off of each other. So Sadhana stops at her old friend's place because her motorcycle broke down. She needed a place to stop by. And while there, her old friend comes home from work as a hospital and discovers that his patient he had just been working on has COVID, so he now has to self-quarantine. So she was going to take a public transport bus to get home because he was going to drive her initially, but because of COVID, he was like, that's not safe, why don't you just stay here for a little bit? And so she does, and then there's a whole bunch that happens. This is the probably the closest spoiler thing I'm going to say. There's a few issues with drug addiction that happens in it, and I think that's probably what makes this one probably also a little bit more controversial, but I personally think that they did a pretty good job handling it. I wish they had maybe shown the withdrawal a little more. They did have like some good glimpses, and I understand it's a short film, so like it's not like they have the time to like fully show the like withdrawal and the horrible trauma that a person goes through during that time. I think they did a good job of showing glimpses of it, but because it was a short film in the format that it was, sometimes it did feel a little jarring, her reactions to stuff. But the acting in it was really spectacular, and I liked the ending a lot, but I wish I wanted to like know what happened next, which I think is kind of a more positive thing. Because it does give you a full, complete story, but I really feel like I wanted to know exactly what happened next, because it leaves it in an open ending where you can make like assumptions of what's gonna happen, but you don't really know for sure, which I'm fine with. I like me a good open ending, but sometimes I'm also like, I want to know. So this one kind of had me like, the second it ended, I was like, wait, I want to know what happened right after this. And I want to know what happened like a month from now, but they did a really good job of telling this full story of what they were trying to tell, and they did give it a good end spot. I just wanted more. These first two short films that I've discussed, I feel, while they were still really good, just did not quite meet up to the standard of quality that were in these next three films that I'm going to talk about. I feel like these two felt a little, like especially, so Coffee Anyone felt a little less natural, and same with Reunion, I think, but meanwhile, these three were just like completely, like, they felt like a slice of someone's life just being recorded. Even though some of the stuff that happens maybe is a bit more like movie magic, it's still like, it felt very real. Let's go on to these top three. So in third place, we have Arvaram Nanam / Avalam Nanam, which means him and me and her and me. And this one's so sweet. I really did like this one a lot. Our two lead characters are MS Bhaskar and Ritu Varma, and their relationship with each other was just so sweet in the way that we get to see them build. So she plays Kana and he plays her Tati, or Tata, and it is such a beautiful relationship between the two. The way that they like go back and forth, because they had a very difficult past, the two of them. He wasn't really around whenever she was young, and so now she's here to make sure that he's okay during quarantine, and so she doesn't really want to be there at the start, and then it just slowly progresses with the two of them getting to understand each other better. The ending of this one got me quite emotional. I did almost cry. But so the reason that this one is third and not higher up on the list did come down to actually its cinematography. So it had some really good cinematography in it, but something I noticed all throughout, and it was especially an issue for me during the big emotional scene, is that the camera was constantly moving. So there's this emotional scene near the end that almost made me cry, but it didn't because of the cinematography. And that's partially me, because then I like analyze it, so then it takes me out of it, you know. But the second I noticed, because the camera just wouldn't stop moving, and it's this beautiful like moment where it would have been so impactful if you just sat there. Maybe like did a couple cuts between like the two people, maybe, you know, a couple cuts here and there, but the camera was constantly moving, and they kept having this insert shot that was like from across the room, like the stairway. It was a nice shot to be able to see it all, but it made it feel more observatory rather than there with them. That we're getting to experience, though, I'd say is more so the emotion that the rest of them were aiming for, and the first top two succeeded in extremely well. But this one just had a few moments that made it feel very observatory, which again is not necessarily a bad thing, but it's not what I wanted, especially when compared to the other films, which all of them were more so leaning towards the experiencing it with them, and then have one that kind of shot it more so where it was more observatory, or kind of like you were another person in the room but like not a part of it, like detached, is how I felt it was. and that's why it kind of gets the third place. And I understand what they were going for with some of those shots, and I get why they did it, but for me personally, it led to me feeling more detached than it did to feel more a part of it, which is what I wanted, especially during that emotional scene. But the story of this was so, it was so sweet, and I loved the ending. Despite the cinematography, I thought that the moment was really beautiful. I wish that it had have been filmed or edited slightly differently, because even the shots where it was an observatory and it was close up with them, it was moving in a way that felt awkward and out of place, because it especially when paired with that farther away shot. But yeah, this one's still one of my top ones because the story and the characters were so strong and emotional that it still stuck with me and made me think about it. So in second place, I have Miracle, which was the 5th film in the anthology. This one is written by Kartik Subbaraj, who did the movie Pizza that I just reviewed recently, as well as the film Peta starring Rajinikanth, which I watched last year, quite a long time ago actually. So this one I've actually seen twice, because I did watch it once, like back whenever it first came out. Someone had suggested that I watch at least that one. I didn't have time at the moment to watch the whole thing, so I just watched that one short film, and I really liked it. And then watching it again after watching all these other ones, I think that I liked it even more. It almost was the top one. These top two were very close at which one was the top. This one, I think the story is just so compelling and interesting. Like, it has so many different layers to it and so many different reveals that are so satisfying, and it does a great job of building up to those payoffs. Like, they have like so many things that's just like a part of it and it seems small, and then it has this wonderful payoff later on where you're like, that's amazing, and that works so well in the story, and it creates such a cool moment. And this one also told the most different story, because the first 3 all told stories about family, and the 4th one still had a lot in family and like romance and stuff like that. And then this one though was very different from that. This one, the main 2 characters were Devan and Michael, played by Bobby Simha and Vitai Muthukumar, and then it also did star Arumbu Tarai Sarath Ravi as Rocky and Ashil Arasan Babaraj as Guruji. Like, there's this opening scene with the character of Rocky, and then it kind of cuts away to it to Devan and Michael, and they have they don't really even talk about Rocky again until later on in the thing, whenever he comes back and through their lives. And it's such an interesting look. It's like kind of a look into like petty criminals during this quarantine, because like they can't go outside, you know, they can't really go get stuff, but they're still so they go to try and steal some money, because one of them had heard that there was some money in one place, so they went to go get it. And then from that, a whole bunch of like shenanigans ensue as they go about their night of trying to steal something and make some money so that they can get biryani and not tamarind rice. And it has a really, I especially loved the ending of it. It had this really great moment where they kind of like reflect on their lives, and it ends on a really sweet note for pretty much everyone involved. There's almost everyone involved. So I'll have to watch and see who isn't as much. I mean, it has just so many great commentaries on so many different little issues, and this one was really close to being first. I'm not gonna lie. These top 2 are super close. But it just had so many good build-ups and payoffs, like continually throughout the short film. It was exceptionally well done, really well written. It was so good. Of all of them, this is probably the one that I would recommend to the most amount of people. It's just not my personal favorite. So now though, let's go on to my favorite one, which is Elami Idu Idu, which translates to Here is Youth. So this one was actually directed by Sudha Kangara, who just did Surarai Patru, which I just did a reaction to that, and it just came out. Amazing film, and I didn't realize that it was by her until afterwards. I was like looking it up, and so it makes a lot of sense, because I think some of the reasons why I like Surarai Patru are also the reasons why this one is my favorite. It was, however, written by Francis Thomas and Shruti Ramachandran. This one stars Jairam, who's of course from Ala Vaikuntha Brahmanu, as well as Urvashi, who is in Surarai Patru with her as well. And then the other 2 leads are Kalidas Jairam and Kalyani Priyadarshan, and all of them did a spectacular job. It's about this older couple who have a kind of a secret romance, and so she's coming over to visit for a weekend, and they're both like telling their families that they're at yoga retreats. And the first night that she's there though, the 21-day quarantine starts, so that kind of changes their plans drastically, because they were planning on having a short weekend together, and now it's turned into 21 days. So the title, which means Here is Youth, is really exemplified in the film, where it shows the two how they feel when they're together, and that's where Kalidas and Kalyani's characters come in, where they play like younger versions of them, but it's still them as their older selves. It's just how they feel because of their love for each other. And I don't know, it was just so sweet. I was smiling like the entire film. Every time they'd go back and forth, it was just such a beautiful little romance, and it had its ebbs and flows and it had struggles. It was so much fun to watch, and this is the one that I have thought about most since watching it. So that is why it is like my top one. I decided that's what pushed it above Miracle, was the fact that this is the one that when I'm sitting and like eating or something or working on something, this one's story pops into my head. This one makes me think about it and smile. And I think that that's such a beautiful thing. I mean, it's a wonderful little short film. And the emotions that it like puts into this little compact thing, and the whole story that it tells is absolutely gorgeous. And I really loved it. Honestly, it's as simple as that. Every time I think about this one, I smile, and I thought the dialogue and the interactions and everything they did felt so natural and pure and true, and it was just such a fun short film to watch. All of these were really great, honestly. I know I've said that multiple times, but it is so true. I think that every single one did an amazing job at telling the story that it wanted to tell. Some of them had, you know, a couple issues with it, just like most films always have a couple issues with them. But at the end of the day, these are all really great short films that are worth a watch, in my opinion. One thing that I especially loved that was prominent across all 5 was the use of music and like songs. I think that that was really beautiful, especially during like quarantine when you're by yourself, or like, you know, you're feeling a little lost. Music can be a really beautiful escape and like a great way to like to help all like lift your mood and feel happy and maybe remember things. You know, music can just have so many different meanings and have so much power sometimes whenever it's played. All of them utilize music, whether it was an actual integral part of the story, like some of them are singers, or if it was just the way that they utilized the background score of it, or sometimes they like played a song that was prominent for the whole short film. I think that that use of music is what helped make it feel more cohesive to me, because even though it was like different music, the strong prominent underline of course, the narrative of quarantine also helped combine them all. But I think that the strong use of music in them all was something that I noticed a lot and also really appreciated. And I also like how they all were so different. They all had their own take, they all had their own moments, and they all told a completely different story about quarantine. Like, everyone's having a slightly different quarantine right now. Even someone in a very similar situation to you could just be having a slightly different issues, or like, you know, you don't know what's going on. Everyone has stuff happening, and it's all so like messy a lot of the time. And then there's also, though, you have to look for these beautiful moments and look for the positive things. And I think that this short film does a really great job of talking about all of that and showing it in a way that really is just powerful and hopeful and really just great to watch. So because of that, so whenever it comes to ratings, I would probably rate Reunion and Coffee Anyone as a hammerhead shark if I were to do those separately. And then if I were to do the other 3, I would rate them as great white shark. But since I'm giving the overall thoughts, I'm debating changing my answer right now as I'm saying it. Because I'm between tiger and great white, honestly, guys. And because I want to give it great white, I do. But there were some very distinct flaws in some of them that make it hard for me to want to put all of it into great white. I had it decided, I have it written down, but as I went to say it, I was like, is that where I want to put it? You know, I'm gonna go with my gut. I'm going to be giving it the tiger rating for overall. Alrighty though, I think that that is all I have to say about the anthology of 5 short films, PUTHAM PUDHU KAALAI. Thank you guys so much for watching and listening to my thoughts. I hope you enjoyed. Make sure to leave a comment down below letting me know your favorite and least favorite short films from this anthology, because I'm really interested to know what the differing thoughts are about it. And yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoyed, also make sure to hit that like button and subscribe. And hope that you all are staying safe out there and have an absolutely amazing day. Bye!